Hello, this is FireGuard, and I'm here to talk about Ashes of Creation Alpha 2.5, Phase 2.5, basically. My experiences with it, gearing, and like issues with the game, etc. So first off, let's start with how the first weekend went. So they said that they had over 8,100 concurrent users on the Shoal Realm on Saturday. So that's 3 days after launch. So that's really good. It's good that they're getting stress testing and whatever, and like people are interested enough to basically keep logging in even after like the first day, or maybe some people were just waiting for the weekend to log in for the first time because they knew there'd be a bunch of people logging in. Before this, there was going to be the initial plan was the virus server and the Lineth or whatever, like the other servers were going to keep on running, and then this was going to be a fresh start server, and that was like their plan for a very long time. It wasn't until literally like 1 day before, maybe 2 days before, where they decided to close both of them out and force everyone into the new realm, because there were people who were planning on sticking to the old realm because they didn't want to deal with the fresh start nonsense, especially since there isn't a lot of gameplay changes compared to previously, so there's not really like a point for most people leveling up again from the baseline. So they like, I'm not gonna call it a switcheroo, but yeah. So that was the pre-phase. They launched, a bunch of people logged on. There were a lot of issues where people were getting like disconnected repeatedly, and there's a lot of like bugs in the game where if you mouse over your combo attack skill, like sometimes it'll just randomly disconnect you. Like you'll mouse over it and there won't be a tooltip pop up, the game will just instantly crash. I haven't experienced it in the last couple of days, but I know that people are still getting that bug. Something else, there's still an exploit, like speed exploits and hacks going on. So some people are driving caravans super quickly and they're just basically cashing in on free gold. Other problems that are going on, so they added the ocean, so there's this giant stretch of ocean here available now on the outside. So what I personally think might be happening is that people are like launching their caravan from Squall's End and they're just taking like this ginormous super long trip all the way around and cashing in. And I mean, sure, you could wait out here and like, kill caravans if you think that's actually the case that's going on, but this isn't trafficked area. Like we have caravels, but who's gonna launch a 25 gold caravel for a chance just to get a little bit of gold, and then you still have to drive the caravan like over like half an hour. Like from here to here is probably like 3-4 hours of driving a caravan, and I think that's how a lot of gold is basically being injected into the economy, is people are like AFKing and getting tons of free gold, or they're speed hacking and getting tons of free gold. So that's why you see a lot of the gold prices on the marketplace are super inflated for at least some stuff. Yeah, so hopefully they can, because like at least before they added the ocean, you had to go through land, and all of this land stuff was content that people were basically patrolling constantly because they were playing here. But this whole ocean area is all dead, and it's just not worth trying to camp to get for caravans. So we'll see what they do for that long term. That's just my personal opinion. That's my guess. It's not like I camp the ocean because there's nothing out there, right? Like I just said. So moving on. So that was the launch day. It was okay. Lots of people, fair amount of disconnects, some exploits. The economy is like not super great. So that leaves like leveling and gearing. So leveling was fairly contested. If you were ahead of the pack, it was kind of okay. If you were in the middle of the pack, there was basically like a group here, like literally every like 10 feet, there's like 15 or 20 groups just in this single zone, because the point of interest and like humanoid mobs are the only way to like get decent gear. So like this whole, like all this space here, like on the outside, like this whole land mass here, like all this like space here in the middle, you know, there's some mobs that are up here, I know, but like this whole circle here of like, there's some mobs that spawn here. There's a couple of groups on the island, but there's like giant swaths where basically it's only for small or solo player or like maybe 2 to 5 people at most content. Otherwise, literally everyone else is just packed into these single points of interest on the map. So you have this giant map, but like this whole like giant circle here is basically just all dead because everyone just goes to this spot because it's so much better. So there was a lot of congestion, competition for mob farming. If you didn't level up quick, you had a chance of getting stuck, and there were tons of mobs getting stuck in the walls. Later on, at the beginning, it was fine. So if you got ahead of the curve, that's great. That's good. So let's scroll down a bit here for the notes. So something that happened on the 7th is they found out that there was a bug with the combat damage formula. So the diminishing returns for like power ratings was also applying to monsters. So they fixed it. But when they fixed it, it made the game much harder. So they had to like roll it back, and then they're going to slowly increase it over time to what it should be. But so at this point, people are complaining because there's a severe lack of gear happening. So Steven made this post. Testers leveled up too fast, basically, and the gatherable resources are also were buggy at the same time. So players couldn't gather and craft gear, and then players were leveling faster than the mobs. So the players weren't getting much drops. My argument for this is that if I can kill, 1,000 Cephalite Guardians and we get 4 drops, making these Cephalite Guardians harder or hit harder doesn't decrease the amount of Cephalite Guardians I killed. So even though it would take us longer, it's not like we would be getting more drops because we're still killing the same amount of mobs. Maybe they're intending for us to hit mobs that are closer to our level instead of punching up 10 levels. So, I mean, I guess technically you would get more loot if you kill more mobs closer to your level, but, if I can kill mobs that are 9 levels higher than me, why shouldn't I get, the same loot as if I was at that level, right? I don't know. My opinion on mobs is if I can kill the mob, I should get XP and I should get loot from it. If I'm killing mobs that are too low level, the XP required to level should be so big that it's not worth it for me to go for that, for example. We're going to save this guy if we can here. Let him get out. And we'll just help DPS that a little bit. So, I don't know. I don't like it, how it currently is. Maybe they fix things. We'll see what happens. That bear runs a lot faster than I remember. So we'll see what that happens. So since we're talking about gearing, let's talk about gearing. So I am a level 25 bard. I leveled up killing humanoids from level 5 all the way up to level 25 the whole time. And I'll talk more about humanoids later. So this is the gear. So when I was level 25, this is what I had for gear. I had a copper long spell bow, and I used a copper great spell sword. I didn't have this chest. I had an academic chest. I didn't buy this until I was a bit after 25. I got this drop when I was level 24. And then these and this I got with the gear tokens from the vendor. And I also bought this from the vendor, and I also bought this from the vendor. And then these gloves, I didn't get these until I was level 23, I think. And yeah, this I didn't get until I was level 25 already. So as you can see, level 1 to 25, I didn't get any gear, and I'm still using copper weapons. So I had 60 magical power from level 1 to 25 this whole time. So when you hear people complaining about drop rates, that's kind of what the sentiment is that people are just literally not getting drops the whole way. And the drops that we did get, of course you'd funnel them to the mages, right? But the mages are still using, white level 10 weapons when they hit level 25, because literally just nothing dropped for them. So I don't know, something is wrong. I think that guy's just trying to give me a pair of gloves, so I'll leave, but I'm not. I'm just here for the video. Yeah, so it's, the gear curve is like super painful and it is not fun. Okay, so let's say, so and on Reddit and stuff, or whatever, like the Discord forums, you'll hear people say like, oh, I got a group and we've gotten lots of gear. And when they talk, like they'll say that they went to Steelbloom and they'll say that they went to Highwayman Hills. So only humanoids can drop gear. So if you go to like the Ursine Caves, you're not going to get any gear. If you go to Baineswood Cemetery, that's all base, you're not going to get any gear. Gemspring, you're not going to get any gear. Like a good third of these points of interest on the map, you're just not going to get any gear from farming those places. There's like a lot of mushrooms here around Dargle State that don't drop anything. There's like what are they called? Mushrooms and wolves, yeah. So it's like, okay, yeah, so you followed a hyper-specific route to specifically this model type of NPC, and this model type, by the way, these are the same, like, archetype, whatever you want to call it, like, the Marauders here are the same Marauders here, they're just a higher level. So you followed this super specific path just to get gear, but anyone else who did anything else on the map pretty much didn't get anything the whole way, which is also what I had ran into. And I say the whole map, but like, if you farmed, there's some like very specific types of mobs at specific level brackets where those people probably did get a fair amount of gear. That's all I'm going to say about that. So in general, people didn't get gear. Some people got some gear and they're posting like, oh no, it's fine. I, was stayed in Lion's Hold and I did all the Sanctus quest and I got like a level 10 white weapon and 3 pieces of armor. That's not the majority of people's experiences. So moving on. So that's the leveling phase. Okay, so you didn't get any gear while leveling. You made it all the way to level 25. So what's next, or like what happened next this phase? So the towns hit level 3. People signed up for mayor election. Just diverting from the gear topic for a little bit here. I just want to talk about the, I guess, server politics, if you want to call it that. So New Ayla got to elect its first mayor, and there were like 485 votes, or like 500 votes for a specific person from EU, I think. So like a week, like I think the day after, or maybe 2 days after, Steven did another post about, let's see, from Steven. Let's see, memory leak, maybe he has some about alts. 2024, no, maybe something about mayors. Nope, old content, but okay, maybe it wasn't from him, but it was some announcement. But there was a fix where mayors, where you could only vote once per account. Everyone just assumed that that was live when the phase went up, but it was not. So literally, so you saw that there were 8,000 concurrent players, and that was the high point, right? So literally more than like 1/5 of the entire server population voted for one person. So that's the entire like EU player base is basically just united into a super voting block. So that's like, I don't know, that's super weird to me. Like, I don't know. So they fixed that. There was a vote for Sunhaven today, and I think it was like 300 votes. So like I would guess that like 200 of the Sunhaven votes were just, not Sunhaven, 200 of the New Ayla votes were like, I don't know what to call it, like unintended. I'm not gonna say exploited, but like that wasn't the intended behavior. Like people assumed that they had fixed it already, and they hadn't. So that kind of ruined that election. And then in Sunhaven, the giant EU voting bloc secured it there. So a lot of the like sentiment around the Vira versus Lotharia server was that Lotharia was the PvE server, and the reason why people were calling it that was because everyone was basically friends with each other. Like there was like some small like 10 to 20 man like fighting in between people, and I think that there was some like a couple of larger Zerg fights that were happening with between like the Pirates Guild and like everyone else. But yeah, so to me, I think it's super boring that the EU unites into this ginormous group. So NA has kind of like had the three largest guilds combine into like one guild, but it's still smaller than EU. And it's like it's turning into Lotharia again, where it's just two giant super guilds fighting against each other, and honestly I think it's just boring. So I think everyone prefers if a guild was a guild, and like, you know, maybe people partnered up with like 1 to 2 other guilds, but you know, having an entire continent just voting for one person after another, and like having giant like 40 to 80 man raids, and like, I mean, it's a free country, like you're free to do that, and I don't know, that's just not fun to me. It's like, okay, like you way outnumber us, what's the point? So whatever. I guess I'm just gonna leave it at that. But that's the whole EU versus NA thing. Like, at least from my opinion, is that it's just boring. It's just like a giant massless blob of Zerg people, I guess. I don't know. But moving on. And you know, some people could like complain it was the other way on Vira with like Envious and Polar and etc. But I don't know. At least that was like NA versus NA, right? Like it wasn't the whole continent united compared to how EU is literally a fifth of the entire server's population just playing as one super guild. So I'm sure eventually there will be that small guild mechanics where if you have a better 40-man guild, then you can actually like punch at least part of a super Zerg, but whatever. This is going into too much of this, so let's move on. So gearing. So you're level 25, you're geared. Sorry, you're level 25, you have no gear. Okay, so you want to get gear. What do? You farm NPCs that drop loot. Okay, so your experiences from leveling 1 to 25 is that farming regular white mobs just didn't give you any loot, or you only got loot from very specific mob types in only like a couple of specific points of interest. Okay, so you either go back to those points of interest like Steel Bloom and you try and round out and finish off your gear, or you farmed named mobs. So for named mobs, they have a like 10% or like a little bit less than 10% chance of dropping an item. And most named mobs have a 20-minute respawn timer. So if there's a 10% drop rate and there is a 20-minute respawn, and you have to kill it 10 times to get loot. So that's 200 minutes. So you divide that by 60. So it takes you 3.5 hours about-ish to get a piece of loot for a single person. Okay? But there are 8 people in your group. So that 3.5 hours-ish, assuming that your group gets every tag, times, let's say you don't even need to gear out your whole party. Let's say 5 of your people in your party. So 17.5 hours of killing a single 20-minute NPC drop just for everyone to get one piece of gear. If you haven't noticed, there's a lot of gear slots, and some of these are doubled up slots. So these doubled up slots are going to have like even more extra competition. So you can either go farm like the same mobs that you farmed level 1 to 20 for like 40 to 50 hours straight and hope that you somehow get gear when you haven't been before. Or you can farm named mobs, which at least you know what you're going to get, and it has like a 10% drop chance on a fixed timer. So basically the current system is like super bad. Your options for farming these named mobs are you do what this guy's doing, right? and I'll explain why he's level 7 in a while. But so you do what this guy's doing. You camp a named mob. You kill it on repeat as it spawns to get the drop. By the way, it drops these gloves, which are only level 10 gloves. And you know why I have level 10 gloves? It's because it's the only named mob that has like a super short respawn timer that I could get. And I'm assuming that this is his main, and he's playing 2 accounts at once, and he's just healing with his cleric as the rogue kills it and gets the credit. So you're either solo camping a mob for like 4 hours solo, and you need to do that for every slot. So what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So there's 16 slots. If it takes you about 4 hours per slot, it's going to take you 64 hours, which is about 2.6 days. So it takes you about 3 days of 24-hour grinding to get fully geared out. And this is with base level greens. And you know, maybe you get lucky and you get a little bit earlier, or maybe you get unlucky and it takes you a little bit longer in slot. So it takes at a minimum 3 days of 24-hour grinding for a single player to gear out. Assuming that they get every tag and they're only one and they can solo everything, which you can't. So if, you know, and if there are, 4 people in your group, it's going to take you 10 days of 24-hour grinding to gear out 4 people in your group if you're all farming the same mobs. So you kind of see what you're getting at here, and you see here like 20 plus kills, maybe get a material if you're lucky, right? Like you can get unlucky on these kills too. So I'm gonna stop rambling about that, but so you're super unlucky getting that. Okay, so what if you kill multiple name mobs at once, right? Like you're in Carfin, you kill like Glimpsies up here, you kill the Monitor down here, you kill the 2 elite mobs that spawn here and here, you drop down below and you kill another one. And I know these because I've done that before. So you do have a chance of getting more loot, right? Like that's where I got this chest piece. But there's also other guilds who are doing the same thing. So it's like you're taking your 10-hour grind and you're cutting it down a bit because you're farming multiple at once, but you're also increasing it because everyone in your group also needs it. And then you're like doubling the time it takes because you have competition, because it's the best place to farm mobs is to farm named mobs, and there's other people fighting for it. So the short version of the last like 10 minutes of my talking is that gearing sucks super bad, like really, really bad. It's not fun. Like you can't get common gear even. You're just stuck with empty slots, and you can't farm named mobs reliably. Like you can farm them reliably, but it's just such a waste of time. Like, do you think this is fun gameplay, what this guy's doing right here? Sitting with his main, killing stuff with his ult as his main sits there to like heal bot him to get kills? Like, no, this guy's literally alt tabbed, like tabbing in every 5 minutes to get tagged for a kill. Like it's super terrible. Like, I don't know. I think it's like horrible stuff. At least with the old system, everyone had like green level 20 gear, and then they could go do what they want. Because, you know, there's artisan skills, there's like the nodes to upgrade. You could be running caravans for the glint farming and like PvPing people for, you know, their loot in lawless zones, and like there's so much more to the game, and you're just stuck at step 1 of getting a baseline level of gear so that you can feel like you can play the rest of the game. Yeah, so I'm gonna stop on that. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about? Oh yeah, so gear. So they made a change in the most recent patch notes this Saturday. Here it is. Fixed a bug causing named enemies to drop loot for players who are outside the valid level range. So what does this mean? So this Nangolith mob here that this guy's farming is level 6 or 7, and it drops. So this is Ash's Codex. Like, these are the most popular items. Like, so this is basically the items that people want most in the game. So the most desired gloves in the entire game are these level 10 gloves here. Since my character is level 25, if I kill this boss, this named mob, I'm never going to get loot from it. And as you see here, this guy, like talking to this random person, you're over 9 levels, you're never going to get a kill. You're never going to get loot. So this guy, he could be killing it on his cleric, and he's stuck using a level 7 alt to kill it instead, because there are no other options for a decent pair of gloves. The reason why they did this change, at least my guess, is because they didn't want level 25s farming like low level named mobs. Like, they wanted to give low level players a chance, but what people are doing instead is that they're just making alts to do it instead. Any other comments about that? Yes. So the reason why I'm here and I farmed out these gloves myself is because, one, the gear slot's empty, and two, there aren't good level 20 alternative options. Everyone has pretty much unanimously agreed that, like, okay, if you're going for magic power gloves, like, these are the best starter ones to get. And it's not just like a one-off case of this, right? Like, Hornhexer's helm, like, the skull cap of the 3 moons is level 20 and it is much better, but people are just scrounging for scraps, right? They're even killing level 10 name mobs just to get a helm, even though there's a better option available. Like, and then, like, this is the level 10 physical power sword, but it's the highest rated item because people just need a weapon so that they can actually, like, level up in the game. So if you go to, like, a Grave Peak, not Grave Peak, but so if you go to, like, Oakenbane, you'll see, like, there's, like, a group here, there, there's, like, one here, there. Like, it's just swarmed with, like, multiple independent groups, each pulling mobs to themselves. Yeah, his cleric is healing his rogue as the rogue solos the boss over and over. Yeah, so there aren't even options. Like, if it was like, okay, like, you know, if you're level 10, you know, you can get this, but, you know, once you get to level 20, then you can get a better piece of gear. But it's just, God, it just sucks. I guess I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I'm gonna say about that. Is there anything else that I want to talk about in this video? I think it had something to do with, like, Discord notes that they had, but I can't think of it right now. I guess, so let's talk about the damage the increased damage mobs are doing. I agree that mobs are too easy to kill in a party right now. Like, a level 10 tank can pull, like, 5 to 8 mobs at a time, or even, like, 4 or 5. This causes, so suppose that we're in an 8-man group here. How many mobs can we pull? We can pull, like, 10 to 15 at once, right? And we want to keep 10 to 15 up at all times because that's basically our capacity. So we pull all the 10 15 mobs, they are dead. We pull 10 to 15 mobs, they're, like, almost dead, and these start respawning. So we're occupying basically 30 NPC spawns just with our single group. So when they increase the damage of the mobs, that cuts our 30 down to, like, let's say we only pull a pack of 5 and a pack of 5, and by the time we finish this 5, this other 5. So that basically allows them to triple the number of groups that can be in an area, which is good for the game. And it also, like, makes mobs more threatening. It's not just like, okay, you know, there's 15 mobs, are you really going to be doing your, you know, throwing tomatoes, or are you going to be auto attacking with your melee skill that's AoE? Is there really a point to, like, you know, you're just switching between your different AoE skills when it's just mindless AoE farm for, you know, 40 hours to get up to level 25. So I do think it is a good idea. I think that they need to buff the loot a lot, because, you know, being completely naked at level 25, it's not like I just hit level 25 and it's like I farmed these 3 pieces of gear and I started complaining. I hit level 25, I farmed named mobs for 2 days in a row, and these are all the drops that I won. And then I went to, you know, farm some, like, 3-star elite mobs for 6 hours. And those 6 hours of farming, that's how I got these 2 weapons, right? Like, I was literally using copper weapons until, like, a day ago or 2 days ago. And even then, they're, like, white weapons, and it's, like, mentality, which is a tank stat, and, like, magical crit power rating, which is probably the worst offensive stat. Like, power or a crit chance or your penetration or even accuracy would have been better. But, you know, it's better than a copper weapon, right? So I'm stuck using these like super terrible weapons. And then, like, a friend is like, hey, I got an upgrade. So he gave me, you know, his book, which has 2.2k mana regeneration rating. So it is a blue book, but like, wow, is that ever terrible? So, so I've played like hardcore for the first 4 days, took a little bit of a break. I played like a normal player for 4 days, and I got this gear, so it's cooked. I'll just leave it at that. I'm probably going to be taking a break from Ashes until they make a loot patch, because it's just not worth my time to be farming 2-star, 3-star, level 20 skeletons for days just to get green weapons. I have better things to do. So I'm just making this video to, I guess, kind of vent and like explain what's going on with the current game state. Other things I wanted to say. Let's talk about loot and like the drop system that they currently have in game. So let's look at a rubidium longbow. So the way that, well, maybe this would be easier with the map. Let's open up a new tab and let's go to Ashes Codex. We're gonna look at the map. We're gonna hide. So these are the named mobs, by the way, just as the default, the named mobs, what they spawn. So you can click on this and you can see basically all the mobs that like are guaranteed to drop loot are only in the POIs. Like there's like 1 or 2 that are, you know, out, but this is 6 different spawns of Ashir's the Wind Lord. These rabid ganders don't drop anything. This guy just drops like quest scrolls, I believe. So he doesn't actually drop anything, and he has like a super long, like a random chance spawn. Like Horn Hexer is like super far up in a tower, so if you were doing a normal farm rotation, you would never go up there and get it. There's just another rabid gander. Like there's just these ginormous swaths of just no value in terms of like named mob drops. But if you go to a point of interest, like there's like a half a dozen of them in here, and these are all like super good drop items here, like 500 physical power at level 10. Like that's crazy, getting that super early on. But that's not what I'm here for. So let's talk about loot and drop and like level categories. So if we hide all, so the higher the star, the more likely you are to get loot. So let's look at 2 and 3-star mobs. Okay, so these are all of the, I guess, quote unquote loot dropping mobs in the game. Pretty high density here in Highwayman Hills, pretty high density in Steel Bloom, lots in Carfin, for example. Okay, so let's look at just a random mob. So a Sighted Fanatic. So these are like random quest items, so they don't drop anything. So this humanoid mob doesn't actually have any gear drop on his table. Okay, so there's Sighted Fanatics here. There's a named mob, so he drops like a hood item, which is like physical power rating on the cape. So that's pretty good. He drops some level 0 gear, right? That's pretty good. And then some tin weapons. So okay, so like he could be worth farming, but that's a named mob, right? That's not like you can't super farm a named mob with a 1200 second respawn rate. You're gonna be farming these other lower level mobs, so you're pretty much not gonna be getting much loot here. There's flayers. These are actually pretty good for loot. So you can get some river stalker gear. You can get some copper weapons to start with, but you already have copper weapons when you start off the game, right? So like those are good, but they're not like actually good. So there's only 3 mobs here. You can't really farm those. These are beasts, so they only drop like poop, and that's it. And there are some named mobs in here, but that's it. These flayers are actually really good to farm. I might come out here and farm these later. I didn't realize that they were still up. Oh no, they're in a freehold, so they might not even spawn. But yeah, so these drop some actually pretty good gear. I may have to come back to that later. And then, so there's Forsaken Blades mobs, which is the same as the Steel Bloom. So this specific NPC type, Forsaken Blades, like you can see that they have like a pretty good drop table of things that they can drop. So let's just like speed this up a little bit and zoom out. So we're not going to get any gear from plants. We're not going to get any from vermin, avian, constructs don't drop any, arcana, beasts don't drop any. So arcana can drop them, but it's like a very low chance. Yeah, and there's also a bug where like a lot of these mobs, like the alligators and the iguanas, are not being filtered by Ash's Codex. So as you can see, like these all are iguanas and they don't drop gear because they're beasts. So if we enable just specifically humanoids, so these are the new ones that pop up. So let's take a look. So ruinous giants. Okay, so these can drop some gear here. The Josh Hunters, okay, so those can drop some gear. These are all beasts. Humanoids. So there's a handful of Cephalion mobs that you can farm, but none of these sighted blood blades actually drop loot. There are some Ashen mobs that can drop Ashen Haunt gear, which is actually pretty good, but it's like a chance to spawn based on other gear. So as you can see, like iguanas, so more giants, and then like a whole bunch of risen warhorns, like Omlock giants, more giants, Najash hunters. So you're basically like, there's this giant map, and there's like, okay, Forsaken Blades, Steel Bloom, Najash, some giants, and then more Najash down here. There's like a cave here of like barnacle stuff that you could farm, and there's some Sladeborn stuff up here that you could try and farm, and like that's it. And like Grave Peak also has some undead that you can farm, because undead also give loot. Yeah, but these are like too spread out to be like, you know, farmable in a group, for example. So you have all of these options, but there's only like 10 places on the map where you're really going to get farming loot drops. And like, you know, this has like, oh wow, there's tons here, right? But, you know, it's only in Carfin Tower, but this is Carfin Tower. This is the Carfin like open space. Like none of this loot is going to drop. Like the zombie thaumaturges out here, like it's just going to drop glint. Otherwise, like, I mean, there's a couple of them that are like randomly allowing you to get loot from them, but it's just, yeah. So there's options, but it's only like hyper specific on what's actually giving gear. So let's go back to this example with the Ruvidium longbow. So if you do dropped by, you'll see here that it's only in a very specific level range for very specific mob types that you're going to be getting gear from these. So I'll just tell you straight up. So like Ruvidium longbow is like level 20 to 24. So as you see, like this is 16 to 20. It's actually only the level 20 ones that are actually going to be able to drop it. You're not going to be getting a Ruvidium longbow from a level 1 Ashen Flame Warrior. That's just the level range it can spawn in. So you're looking at a very short level range window of mobs that can actually drop this item. So if we go back to the map, so we cut this to like 20 to 24. Okay. Humanoid, undead. So this is everything that can drop it, right? And like giants can't drop Ruvidium bows, for example. These are, you know, and these are bull alligators, iguanas. So you're looking at the map here, and it's like, okay, so there's some skeletons here that can drop Ruvidium weapons. There's some grave walkers up here. Maybe some stuff in Carfin at like very specific level ranges, it looks like. But you know, these don't drop Ruvidium longbows either if you click on them, right? Or they don't drop any loot at all. It's just glint. Like this one does, like this specific zombie thaumaturge does. But it only drops like wands and scepters. So if you want a longbow, you know, like a lot of that's just dead content. And you come over here to the desert, there's literally just one spot of predators and hunters that can drop it. And if you like tab over, like, okay, hey, look, it's mobs that can actually drop it. So you zoom out and you look at the whole map. Okay, so you can get it here, 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 and then here. And then like maybe there's some mobs in here I don't know about. So this whole level bracket of Ruvidium and iron weapons are only available in like literally 3 places on the map to consistently farm from. It's, yeah, so that's another like part of the reason is that if you try and kill mobs that are outside this very specific level bracket range, you're not going to be getting loot anymore. And then I don't think I talked about this, but the reason why this guy's using a level 7 is because they did that announcement where you can't kill named mobs that are too much lower than you. So people are adapting by making alts that are lower level in that level range so that they can still get loot. I don't know. So that's the problem that I'm having with the game right now. I guess we can talk about Artisan next. I kind of already explained like why you can't really reliably farm the gear. So what's the other alternative? It's artesian stuff. So they did, what was it? From Steam JS. So let's see here. This is him leaking some of the possible summoner models. So economy will hopefully be going some significant updates, hopefully by the end of next week. Easy anti-cheat. His announcements about the code. Recipes will be hopefully getting updated by the end of the week. Yeah, so right now they changed the ratio of like refining. So yeah, should only be 1 vote per account. So basically this is their, yeah, like they didn't have this overwriting stuff in place for that first election. So votes, blah, 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 critical nature, stability and performance, yep, etc. I don't know, it's somewhere in here, but here we go, the 1:1:2 ratios in this update. So basically people were complaining about refining stuff was like in a really weird order, and like it costs way too much resources to make even just a basic copper weapon. So if you want to make like a timber weeping willow, it's like 2 pieces of wood. So you need a whole bunch of basic raw resources just to get a simple refined one. I'm just gonna skip to the short version. So they made it so you require a whole bunch more materials in order to make a decent craft. And if you want to make a good craft, you have to get the named item drop from the mob for the material, which this guy says is very unlucky, and you know it has a fixed spawn timer. Otherwise, you're going to be upgrading and making okay versions of like iron weapons or like Illuminon items, for example. So even from a crafting perspective, things aren't looking very good. And with the way that they have the node benches, like just today we got our first lumberjacking and mining stations to apprentice tier, which is level 10. So those get to level 10, all the refining stations have to get to level 10, then all the crafting stations have to get to level 10, then they level up the gathering stations to level 20, and then they start leveling the refining stations to level 20, and then they level all the crafting stations to level 20. And the leveling of the stations is people basically giving away their materials for tickets at the nodes, which is, you know, it's cool, but it's not an incentivized activity. Like right now, if I want gear, or like if I'm looking for more personal power, or like what's most efficient with my time, donating to vent to nodes and like stuff like that to build tables and benches is just not worth the effort. Not only are you spending your time to basically give away resources that you could sell for money, you're also, that time that you're spending is time that someone else is spending like farming or gathering gold, right? So you're trading, you're spending your time to help level up the server. Meanwhile, someone else who's being selfish is gaining more personal power, and then they're going to benefit from the effort that you put in. So it's basically like, okay, there's 3 guys in a row. The middle guy helps donate for the node. The top guy like just logs off, and then the bottom guy is like farming for himself. So when the middle guy finishes upgrading the node, the top guy can log on and then buy whatever he wants because he just had gold. And then the bottom guy has like the materials that he's already gathered, and he gets to use your effort to upgrade. Meanwhile, you have to go and do the same thing that the bottom guy did and like go farm. Yeah, so the other guy, Oof or whatever, who was farming this, he logged off, and so did his main account, it looks like. So this guy's just here filling in. Maybe he's a friend or something. Looks like 2 rangers. Maybe they're in a party. This guy might be alt-tabbed. You may have just missed it. whatever. So yeah, and that's like the node dilemma. So it's gonna be weeks, maybe a month until we can. I should help this guy and not just run away. So it's gonna be weeks, maybe a month until journeyman crafting comes up. So if you want to gear up right now, your only option is to do named mob farming, which, as you saw from like my examples and explanations, is like not a fun thing to do. I imagine this guy isn't exactly having a lot of fun sitting here waiting for it to respawn in 5 minutes again. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about? Okay, so artesian stuff. So we talked about the benches are going to take like a month to upgrade, and these servers, so let's talk about next phase 3. So they said that they want to keep these servers live. After what they pulled with the last server, I don't think they will. Like, maybe they'll make these the PTR servers, but if they have a fresh start, which I am like very strongly believing that they will, I'm going to be re-rolling anyway. So anything that I'm investing in this character is going to be gone. So what I should be doing right now, optimally, is leveling up my artisan professions so that I can buy artisan clothes that give me increased stats for PvP, but I just can't be asked, like, for how short the phase is going to be and stuff. So so I'm at this weird point where I can AFK on a caravan for 4 hours to get some gold, or I could sit here and camp named mobs, or I can log off. But yeah, even this guy knows that like I'm literally not going to be getting drops if I camp here. So it's not exactly a secret that they're trying to push 25s out of competing for low level named mobs, even though it's not the best in slot, but it's like a solid power upgrade for people who are basically naked. So I can't farm named mobs, so I could farm the named mobs the low level ones solo with my power level, but I can't farm the stronger level 21 solo. So, and yes, you can do it in a group, but then you multiply the time and blah 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 blah. So the current like optimal, so after all this knowledge, so what is like the actual most optimal thing I could do? The first thing is to get a cape, which I did. Farm tickets, turn them in, become a citizen of the correct node, get your cape, and then drop citizenship and go back to whatever town you actually want to be a citizen of, which I think is also a very stupid system. Like, if I take off this cloak, I can't put it back on until I become a citizen again. Like, there's some, I don't know, I still can't believe that that's a thing, but we play the game we have, not the one we want right now. So you get your cape. The next thing you would do is you are either gold farming or you are playing econ, because it's not worth. So what's the point of gear? Let's talk about that just briefly. So suppose that this guy is in full legendary best in slot gear. What does that change? That means he can level up faster. That means that he can farm glint faster. And that means that he's better at PvP. That's it. Like, it doesn't help him with his artisan stuff. It doesn't help him run a caravan through safe zones. It helps him in PvP and like glint farming PvE. So if you're not interested in running caravans, if you're not interested in PvP, there is no reason for this guy to ever get a better piece of gear. Like, he's gonna get to level 20 so that he can use the better artisan clothes, and he has no reason to get to 25. Like, it's literally just a waste of time unless he's interested in PvP or running caravans, which is also considered a PvP event. So since and personally, those are the activities I'm interested in. That's why I'm so gear focused in this video, is because I want to do PvP and I want to run caravans for gold, because I don't want to do an artisan investment in this short phase. So yeah, so that's where we're at, is like, ideally I would have gotten to level 20. I would have just spent 6 hours a day running caravans back and forth to cash in the glint from leveling, and then I would have just bought gear overpriced at the marketplace instead of spending all the time trying to acquire these named mobs or this stuff myself. So yeah, the most effective use of my time currently is to either run those super long caravans or just log off and wait until journeyman stations, and I'll make myself a terrible set of gear, and the people who are no life grinding will have, you know, better gear, more gold, upgraded caravans, etc., and I'll just be behind the curve. Yeah, so it's looking kind of doomed for me. Is there anything else I want to comment on this video? Not really. I guess I can talk about the class briefly. So first phase, I played Fighter, 1 to 25. Fighter is very fun in PvE. It's fun in PvP. The problem is two things for Fighter, for PvP, in my opinion. So let me clarify. So when I talk about PvP, I'm talking about 40 versus 40, which is the size of a raid. And a guild size is 50, right? So like that is the quote unquote top end content, right? Is sieges is 100 versus 100, but you're kind of splitting up into two raids. You're doing 40 versus 40, which is two raids against each other, or you're doing like 50 versus 50, which is two guilds against each other. Like that's what the highest end content is going to be. For like 1v1s and like 8v8s, like a fighter is like very solid. Even like 16 versus 16, a fighter is like okay. But when you jump up to those larger scale combat situations, there are two important things. One is that everyone is B targeting, which is targeting whatever is closest to them. And the second thing is the area of effect of your actual skills. So let's talk about the B targeting first. So if you are ranged, so you have basically a firing squad of like 10 people is the front line. So everyone is kind of like in and out, backwards and forwards. Like if you get low, you know, you dodge back, another like ranged person kind of like fills in the void in front of you, and you just rotate like World War I, like frontline people fighting. The other option is like, okay, both raids are like all inning, so we're just in each other's face anyway. So a fighter in that first situation, the only thing that they can do is auto attack with the bow, and then once they build enough combat momentum, they can charge forward and like do damage, and that puts them like in a very open targeted place. You know what, I am not going to be going into that much depth. We can have a why fighters are not considered good video later. Let's just talk about the things I've been playing. So I played Fighter first phase, found out it doesn't work so great in Zerg versus Zerg, so I decided to play Ranger instead next phase. So I played Ranger phase 2, that was fun. I was kind of saddened by the buttons that were available for Ranger to press, but I still enjoyed the theme. I like bows, and I like the raid utility, and the movement speed utility is very cool, and I like the thematicness of the class. Phase 3, it's like, okay, I already know how to play Ranger. This phase is going to be short. Let's play something for fun. So I picked Bard. So let's talk about my opinions on Bard. So my first impression of Bard is that it's way overtuned. Like it's just too mechanically strong. Let's start with mana. So currently, people burn through their mana pools like within 30 seconds. So having a mana bard is absolutely required in PvP and PvE. So every party is going to have one bard as just like a baseline requirement. You just run Pensive Melody, you do your Hymn of the Mind AoE, you have your dances for utility, and then you have your CC utility, and then you're just giving people mana with Saga and with possibly with an Uppies if you can spare it. And that's it. Like, you're looking at your party's frames and you're watching their mana bars. Meanwhile, your clerics are looking at your party's frames and watching their health bars, for example. So, I don't know. It's good to provide that mana utility. There's a bug where stamina and mana stop regenerating, where the Pensive Aura basically stops ticking on people because the server is lagging so bad. So when you lose the passive regen and the passive melody regen, it's you basically can't keep up no matter what you do as a bard. So people start looking at you weird and thinking things are wrong and like they hate you. But when the servers work good, like you don't even need to use Saga. Like you just passively provide enough mana for everyone, even if you're naked. So like yeah. and you can't really swap off, because if you swap off, people are going to run out of mana within 30 seconds or so. So you're just locked into just sitting on pensive the whole time. And then, yeah, actually, this video is getting too long. I'm just gonna do a quick summary of Bard, instead of like going over the mechanical stuff in my opinion on it. So I did make a forum post on it, but I don't like the mask system and I don't like the saga system. I love that these are minute-long buffs, and you can like pick between two of them to like balance them, or you could just double stack one. I love that the masks are like multiplicative for your output instead of being like an additional weapon percent damage or something. I love the different sagas, even if only only 3 of them are good, and the ones that are good. So I hate. So, sorry, there's a lot of opinions here, and I'm trying to wrap this up. So, overall, I think Bard's overtuned. It provides too much mechanical strength. It doesn't have that great of multipliers on its skills for the cooldown that they have. So you basically kind of stack gear on other classes instead, like clerics if you need more healing, and the whatever other classes, the mages if you need more damage, because you provide like the multiplicative buff through your songs. So if you, so that a 15, so it's stronger on them, and then you're 15% amplifying theirs. So you have to think of it as part of their damage as yours. I don't know. I'm just gonna cut this off. Sorry about this last 5 minutes, or just a waste of time, but the last 10 minutes I'll say from Bard. But Bard's too mechanically strong. I don't really like being a mana only provider. I want to be able to use the doubles auras. I don't like that I feel locked into using a very specific order of masks. I want to provide like a healing and a damage aura, but I'm stuck just leaving it at all healing songs because I need to basically be parked at having the correct song available for my saga at all times. And it feels like a waste if I go cheerful melody and I don't go for comedy masks, for example. I also don't like that Heroes of Ages Past is too good. 15 seconds. 15 seconds of 30% move speed, and 15 seconds of 70% reduced gravity. So when you're jumping in the air, people can't auto attack you with melee skills because you're out of range. So basically every bard has access to a 15-second duration. Melee skills do no damage. This is also part of the reason why rogues, tanks, and fighters are like not considered super great for PvP. Tanks still have a place just because they have so much shielding and the wall utility and the grip that actually kind of works now. And you only want like maybe 2 rogues at most in a raid of 40. And there's just no place for fighters. Like, if every party can choose to become invincible to all of your melee for 15 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown, and like you can run 2 bards in a party, for example, right? So you basically just disable that class for like up to 30 seconds if both bards are running uppies. So I think that they can't balance it, and they're just gonna have to remove it, or they're gonna have to cut the duration in half or something. It is very fun skill to use, so that's my biggest like issue with Bard. There's some other weird things where stuff like Shielding Dance, like this is uncapped, right? So if you have 20 bards around you and they're all using Shielding Dance, they're all ticking for 50% healing per second, right? And it's not like it's a little area either, right? So if you do like Dance Mastery, like this is a giant circle. You could fit like 10 people in here, and they're all just like passively shielding and providing a giant heal over time for each other. Not heal over time, but they're like ticking uncapped numbers of people shielding. Same for Nimble Dance, is just way too strong. 50% evasion for 5 seconds, right? And as long as I'm channeling this, like this buff lasts. So 5 seconds plus 4-second cast time, like I'm making my whole party take 50% less damage for like 9 seconds on a 25-second cooldown. If you run 3 bards, you can like chain nimbles and reduce the entire party's damage taken by 50%. Like, that is that is way overtuned and is way too strong. It's already cleansing debuffs and like every tick, and it's also giving everyone pep, which is like the increased move speed for that duration. Like, and then Maddening Dance, it purges a buff on enemies every second. Like, these skills are just ridiculous. And like stuff like Marionette, so they're stunned for up to 10 seconds or until the damage exceeds 10% of the target's of the instigator's max health. So if I stack 10k health and I cast it on someone who's at half health and they're not like HP geared like I kind of am right now, like it's a literal 10-second stun. Like, someone could dispel it, of course, or they could use a CC break if it's not on cooldown, but it's just, it has potential. Like, I could flag up and Marionette some person running by on a horse, and if they don't have their CC break available, they're literally stunned, like a full stun for 10 seconds, and it's a targeted stun too. Like, at least with Mesmerizing Dance, you have to get into range, and it's just an incapacitate. And then like Gambit is super fun. Like, this is obviously, to me anyway, the best skill on Bard, like the most fun skill to use. Just saving other people's HP, like, this is the utility of a Bard, that like you aren't providing more throughput, you're just moving the problem to a different person, but you're saving that person's life and they are super thankful. I just think that this alone is worthy enough of like playing a Bard to me. So I don't know. And I think Discordance, like the bouncing notes are super cool. I really love the dissonance option, but I think Harmony is just easier to use and it's less likely to pull mobs from the dissonant notes. I love these two options. I wish that I could like lock my resonance onto the pensive melody. So, I mean, because I don't want to be forced to like not use skills or not use auto attacks during a certain duration of time while I switch back and forth, but I don't know. I just love that these two options exist and I love switching between them. I think Dance Flower Mastery is just better in a raid. Like, this is more like a single player or like a very small party type of skill. I think Merriment is secretly overpowered, but with Maddening Dance, like, maybe it's not, right? Because people just purge your glees. And I do like Saga, but I just wish it would had more clarity, like Silent Pantheon. Like, nobody can tell that you actually have that skill active. Yeah, that's my overall summation of the Bard. Very fun class. Lots of utility options. Very cool. Like, people love getting their time boosted and stuff, and it's very nice. Personally, I kind of like Ranger more, just because now that I know how Bard works, I get upset when I see other Bards not using their mechanical toolkit options. Yeah, so it's kind of like I opened up the Pandora's box. Now I can see what Bards can do, and now when I party with a Bard, I'm upset when I see them not doing something that they should be. Yep. Also, Bards are like far and away the best like mob pullers for tanks compared to any other class. Yeah. This video is already an hour long. I'm gonna stop it here. Maybe I'll do a more dedicated Bard video when I get more geared and stuff, but overall, super cool class. For Ashes of Creation, I'm pretty disheartened by how the current state of the game is. I'm probably going to be taking a quote-unquote soft break until they do a loot patch, just because this isn't worth my time. I still like talking to you guys and, like, you know, talking over the video. You know, another person's alt hoping to come here to get an Angelith, I'm guessing. But whatever. That is it for now. So, yeah, hopefully things change. Hopefully we get more loot options and not get, like, forced into level brackets and making alts to farm named mobs and, like, because, like, imagine being a new player and not knowing that you only get loot from named mobs, and not knowing that, like, the only good named mobs are, like, hyper specific locations. If you're looking for, like, iron and rubidium, it's literally just this level range. Like, how would someone ever know that you can, like, basically only reliably farm iron and steel rings from just these giants, and, like, none of the other giants are in the level range of getting iron rings, for example? Like, yeah, it's just a trap, and it forces people to use external tools just to figure out where they can actually get loot and stuff. And I don't know. Um, Hopefully, they make the game better. It's just that the meta right now is just not very fun, and it's not like, do I even say it? It's not respectful of your time, like farming those named mobs. Like, it's just green gear. Like, I just want common gear so I can play the game. Like, I'm literally no rings, like no earrings. Like, I could buy copper gear, but that's just a waste of silver. Like, I just want to play. And I can't really feel like, and I don't feel like I can really do that right now. So, um, I will wait, and I will be back. And I still love Ash's Creation. So, all right, that's all. Goodbye.